just with a quick message. Don't believe the next round of McCann fuckery that's going to come into play very shortly. The Sun newspaper in the UK has reported that Operation Grange is not going to continue pursuing Christian Breuckner, the German pedophile whom they pursued in 2020 with regards to the murder of Madeleine McCann, alleging that Christian Breuckner 100% murdered the 3-year-old back in May 2007. She's the little girl that went missing from the Algarve Portuguese coastline. She was staying with her parents and twin siblings and a group of the parents' friends at the ocean resort in Praia de Luz, and she was reported missing on May the 3rd, 2007. 15 years ago. 15 years ago this year. Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny what the statute of limitations in Portugal is? I believe its 15th year will be nigh. And Metropolitan Police detectives of London are saying they're never going to pursue Breuckner beyond this date, but that they're just sure he did it. There is one thread of circumstantial evidence, and that is that Breuckner was at Praia de Luz. His phone pinged a 30-minute drive away from Ocean Resort. And he is a dirtbag. Nothing else points to him. He's in jail for other crimes, and he has never been charged and prosecuted with the crime against Madeleine McCann, even though most of the world actually thinks that's the case. Millions and millions of pounds have been sunk into the inquiry, the investigation, and millions of pounds have been earned by Jerry and Kate McCann, who've written books and gained board membership for all sorts of things. They travel around the world talking about safety, don't you know? Well, I'll tell you what's safe. Don't be a neglectful parent. Being a parent should be a universal way of action. Love and care is action. And any person can be a good parent or a bad parent. And a neglectful parent or a doting parent. And it doesn't matter whether you're a doctor with a reputation of the NHS to be considered, or if you work as a seamstress or as a philosopher or as a garbage disposal person sorting through rubbish. You can be a good parent, and good parents don't leave children alone in hotel rooms, unlocked hotel rooms, while they go and piss it up every night. There were other options available to the McCanns. They had the option of a creche nearby. They had the option of sharing babysitters with other friends of theirs who had children with them, putting the children all together, and yet they chose not to. This in itself is something that makes people think, were the children being abused knowingly? But they're certainly been neglected, and they should have been charged with neglect. That's just the bottom line. This is what the Ramseys, what the grand jury in the Ramsey case wanted to indict the Ramseys for. Neglect was part of that, and accomplice to first-degree murder. So, angling that John Andrew or Burke maybe was actually the murderer of John Bonet, or maybe that the parents were each an accomplice of the other. They were all being charged with the same. They were both being charged with the same things. But, don't believe any of the hype. It's all bullshit. Christian Breuckner did not take Madeleine McCann. No doubt while this scumbag was in Portugal, he was abusing children. You know that Breuckner's his dwellings that he'd lived in and were torn apart. You know that they did find where he kept images of children. Out of 8,000 of them, not one of them was of Madeleine McCann. Not one of them. Now, what a beautiful little girl. Can you imagine? No photo of Madeleine McCann. Did he just not take any? He is a fall guy, just like all of the things that the McCanns roll out every year. He was one of them. And they really amped it up, coming up to this 15-year mark where I believe, sadly, they could no longer be indicted in Portugal for the crime. Whatever that crime is. Definitely neglect. Did they drug their children? Have you actually read the details of what medications they had with them on that holiday? Medications that these doctors didn't even have in their name. They were prescriptions written out to other people. And several of these things were drugs that would put one to sleep. Think about that. Think about the fact that the twins didn't rouse when Mother Dearest was in the room looking for Madeleine, exclaiming, the doors slamming. She runs off, leaving the twins alone, even though she knew her daughter had been kidnapped, She knew her daughter was taken, and yet she leaves her baby children in that hotel room yet again to run another, 60 metres away. 60 metres. This is not like just being in your backyard. Maybe being in your back garden with your friends and the baby monitor on the table next to you so you can hear if they cry. And previously, we know through eyewitness accounts that group was actually much, much further away. A 6-minute walk, in fact, down at another bar late at night. Where were the children? They weren't in the creche. Okay? This group of people were there to party, and that's what they were doing, and they were leaving their children alone. The McCanns were, at least. The other people with the child, I think, had a mother, sort of the grandmother of some children with them. Did they want to put them all together? No, that didn't happen. Don't believe it. There's going to be a whole lot of bullshit this year. They'll be on the talking circuit, no doubt, making more money out of the disrespect and the dishonourable treatment of their little girl. Missing children deserve better than to be used and abused for the sake of covering up the actions of the family, whether it's simply neglect. Okay? Think about this. Go and listen to Hoosier Cold Cases, HCC. He's reopened his channel and he talks about evil on his channel. He's put a few videos up and he's made one of psychology, and he's really interested in, what makes someone sort of moral or evil. And he's quoting Kant. And I want you to think about Kant when you think about the McCanns and what happened to Madeleine, because most people, no matter what, would just, are they these good people that just made the mistake but they're overall moral and they did it to save themselves? Actually Kant might think so. And if that's the case, why can't they be brought to justice and held up and said, look, we know that something happens and we know you covered it up. Instead, they are supported in their life. So maybe, maybe they would have been thought of as much better people in terms of the philosophical view of Kant, thinking about evil and morality, if they had done that. Or is it, let's think, is it that Kant says something like it's worse if you seem to do the right thing, but it's really for your own salvation, your own gain. So, doing good deeds, if it's only for the glory. So, they've covered up, they're hiding what really happened, but then they are now crusaders. They're crusaders for human rights, for the rights of little children, the rights of children, not to be trafficked. It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. Whatever way you look at it, the McCanns have gotten away with a heinous act, and they've spent millions of your pounds. They've taken hours of time away from other children who also need care. They need to be found. They need their cases to be investigated. They have wasted 15 years. They needed to tell the story straight, do the time, and come out of it as, they would have been true heroes. And then they could have really had an honest career talking about the dangers of neglect. Kate and Jerry McCann are neglectful parents. Madeline died because they're neglectful parents. And instead of being able to educate on that actual issue, everyone's got caught up in the fact that they are victims and that they've been victimized and that they are somehow to be held up as some sort of